Hi students! So I'm in my backyard and I am going to show you how to complete the Creating a Landscape Sketch handout, which I have right down here. Alright, so here I have my handout and I have my pencil and my eraser and my pencil sharpener just in case. I also have my laptop out here. You can't see it very well because of the glare and everything, but I have the original image that I used to do this drawing and in the examples, and so when you work on it, you can pull up that image too, or if you're interested, you could look up your own picture online, just find a landscape photo you want, or you could go somewhere and try it out right outside too. Up to you. Normally, when I do this, I would do it in my sketchbook, but I'm going to do it over here today to just help you walk through the different steps of doing it. So one thing you'll notice as you go through these and you look at them is that you're going from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And each of these little boxes is like a whole page. It's like a thumbnail sketch, a mini drawing. So in this first one, you can see all I've done is I've looked for the like furthest back 2 layers of hills in my picture. And I am going to draw them over here the same way as I mostly see them in my picture. So what I often do with the far away is I oversimplify and I choose 2 different kind of tones to the area. So here you can see I have a slightly darker one and a slightly lighter one. So I've chosen in my sketch that I originally did as an example, I did crosshatch, which is where it's 2 crossing each other in opposite directions, and then just a hatch, which is just a single line. These add a nice texture to the background of a landscape when you're doing it, and it just, for whatever reason, makes things seem further away. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing right here. So I'm just looking for what little I can see in the picture of the furthest away hills. And then the other part, there's just kind of, it's not even really a hill, it's just sort of a lightening of it. So I'll just draw these lines in here. Oh, I missed one though, there's a little bit of a bump. And see, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to leave that extra line. It looks nice. And now I'm going to do this furthest back one. And I don't stress too much about if I cross any of these lines. Like I said, this is a sketch, and you want it to look rough, and sometimes those little mistakes are beautiful. And especially this one, because the picture is of a rainy day, and so when I'm working on something that's dark like that, the horizon line is less distinct as it would be on a sunny day, for example. Now I'm doing the hatching, which is just the one direction. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish that up. I think you get it. Alright, so now what I've done is I've taken the same thing and I did it again. Though I kind of changed it a little bit, just for fun. Now I'm going to do like the second example. So this is the middle ground area. And what I often do is I look at the picture and I decide if in the middle ground area what things to include and what things to exclude. So if there's anything I don't like maybe a telephone pole or you know, I don't know, something ugly like a utility box, you know, something that really disrupts the composition in some way, I would just leave that out. You know, and then other things that maybe are too far away for you to really be able to see very well. For example, the barbed wire on this fence. All I drew were the fence posts because I can't see the barbed wire when I'm this far away. And I want to make it seem far away because that's the point. It's the middle ground. So I only give some of the details. They're simplified. So I've got these bushes, and I've then also determined some more of the lines of where I think the hill goes. And also this one, there's some fields and things. And so I like to do these sort of, they look like, you know, almost rectangular, where there's like a diamond shape, you know, going on out there. And just make lots of divisions of the space in the middle ground. That's a really good thing to do to lead the eye back. So I'm going to start working on it now. Okay. So the first thing I see is these, I love these bushes and things that come across right here. And then there's another part of the hill that kind of goes across like this. Yep. And then I see that that same hill kind of makes a slight raised part here. And then this part here kind of comes off. And there's another part here, goes up, and this one here that comes across, and finally the edge of the road, and the fence posts. Alright, so that's looking nice. So I've determined where the lines are, and I've made some decisions about dividing up that space. Now I need to add those bushes and small trees back in. The further away it is, the more indistinct I try to make it look. I just want to give the impression of maybe some trees or something right back here. Here they're a little larger, a little more textured. Still don't really look like trees, and you know, I'm not drawing branches and leaves. I'm just making some squiggly lines, you know. And this one, it's a blackberry bush, and it kind of gets bigger and smaller, but it's like attacking some sort of fence. So let's continue it all the way off. So one thing that you can see about this composition that I've done on purpose is I've placed this right here, and the way that this space here leads your eye into there and then back and into the horizon. This is the way I expect your eye to travel when you look at this picture. So it's important that when you're doing the lines across the picture that you're thinking about that, and you're thinking about where the person's eye is going to travel. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So this is a really simplified landscape with the background and the middle ground. Alright, now we're on the back. And here you can see I have added some more things. But if you look at the picture again, you'll see that I definitely didn't add back everything from the picture. I just added back some of the trees, so there's only 2 on this side and 1 on this side. Some of like the planters from the parking lot, a little bit of the sidewalk, and a little bit of like the driveway part, none of the road, and you know, the right details, I think, to lead the person's eye from right about here back and through the picture, and maybe over to this tree a bit and back over to this tree. And it's a really nice composition for that. It's balanced, there's trees on each side, nothing's too heavy, nothing draws the eye too much. So that's what we're going for when we do one of these sketches. And so the main things to be thinking about are values and placement of everything, and also, you know, ideas about textures. So once you take a nice drawing like this, then you have a really good idea of what you're going to be doing when you're painting and what you need to draw to sketch it out ahead of time. So now I'm going to get started. So my picture looks a little weird. I've got some white out on there because there were some smudges from the photocopier, and I didn't want them on my picture when I scanned it in. So anyway, so just ignore that kind of yellowy business. And I'm going to redraw everything from the first half of this activity on this big drawing. And so I don't want to spend all of the time on this doing that. So I'm going to draw the back first. So remember, you start at the top and you work your way down from far to near. So I'm going to do the far in the middle because we've already talked about what we do in that area. And when I get done with that, then I'll come back and we'll do more video. You go ahead and draw yours too. Okay, so as you can see, I've drawn most of the page is filled up with this, but as you see above, these things that you do in the foreground, they will overlap, and that's important. It's part of what makes them look so near. So I've started over here just a tad, though I actually don't like those lines very well. I'm going to have to fix them a little. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Better. And I'm going to add a shadow over here because I did the same already right on these fence posts on the edges. So, yeah. And then just a little bit of shading there because that is like a painted curb in my picture. Now, I'm going to draw just the side planter over here. So it's really, I'm doing it really a small planter, and then it's got a curb around it too. Just letting it go off into space here. Gotta make sure and, you know, make it three-dimensional. Okay, it's kind of okay. Bleh. Looks fine. And then I'm going to start figuring out where my trees are going. So I don't want it to overlap that because it would look kind of weird. But I do want a big something here to keep the person's eye from traveling off the page because of this direction. So I want them to go this direction and see something, you know. So I'm going to put my tree probably right here. And one thing about drawing trees, if you look at these lines, I have done them in a direction. They're going up and around, up and around, and kind of curling in like sort of a fan shape up. And that's because that's what I see in the picture. It's really hard to see, but in the picture you can see that these branches go those directions. So on both sides, that's what I've done. So I'm going to do a similar thing down here. So I'm going to create just the skeleton of my tree, and I'm going to pay attention to the sort of profile it makes right here, because I want it to be that same kind of rounded look there. Okay, and now on this side I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to just do 2 trees because I don't want to have to draw too many. Not really necessary to do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees in this other picture. Really, they're all stacked. They're all really small, so you can just draw a few of them, and you will get the impression of all of them from doing that. So that's nice. They all have a trunk that seems to be fairly straight and that continues all the way up the tree. So I go ahead and I figure those out there, and then I start figuring out where these side arch branches are going to start. And I'm making the skeleton of this tree. It's a little harder to see because there's so much already happening behind. So sometimes in watercolor, this can be quite the challenge because you actually have to be able to do something like plan that there's going to be a tree here. Otherwise, you would have all this paint and you wouldn't really have an easy time painting over top of it because watercolor is transparent. So what you would do is you would paint some of this and you would leave patches where you know your tree is going to cross, and then you would paint your tree on top. But because this is a drawing, it's okay. And we're just practicing. So the other thing about these trees is they don't really actually have leaves yet. They just have, like, I don't know what those are, some kind of seed pods, or maybe the like little buds for the tree leaves when they come out. I can't really remember what time of year it was. It could have been spring. So we'll just go ahead and make little marks and darken the branches some where necessary and define them a little bit more as they come out of the tree trunk. And you look for the ways that they come off of the side branches too. If you just drew the one branches, then it would start to look weird. And notice you don't have, just like Andrew Wyeth did, you don't have to draw every single branch in order to give someone the impression that there's a tree there. So don't be afraid to simplify. And I am actually going to simplify even further from my original. I don't like this darkness. I think it draws too much attention. So instead, I'm just going to make a darker circular piece, like as if there is some kind of cement out here. And then I am going to darken my tree trunk even further, and I'm going to sort of make the impression of the shadow of, so that it's got its three-dimensionality going. Okay, that tree starting to look awesome. So I'll just put in a little bit more of some impressions of these little things that are on the tree. I don't really know what they are. Just for nice details. Okay, I think that's looking great. I'm not going to do anything more with that tree, I don't think, because it really gives me a good idea for my painting, and that's the point of doing one of these sketches, is you're thinking about how does the tree grow? What does this area look like? And after you've drawn the whole thing once, you really get a good idea of, oh, I shouldn't do this, I should do that, So now I'm going to do these ones, and I'm going to work on them the same way. I had these ones actually originally they do just have like little spots, little openings for them in the cement. So I'll do that first, and then I'll start darkening their trunk. Yeah, that's looking great. And then I'll work some more on these branches. These ones are harder because they have to stand out over top of all this stuff that's happening back here. So when you're sketching, that's not as much of a problem. But when you're doing your painting, you will have to plan ahead for this stuff, which is why it's great to do your sketch first and learn. Okay. This is looking pretty good. I feel like this area in here with these branches and everything is getting really muddled because it's just too many lines and too much happening. So I'm probably going to just call it on that. Okay, so you probably will get something similar to this, and that's great. It's really good practice to get your thumbnail sketch preparations ready so that when you are going to go do your thumbnail sketch for real, you've got a good idea of how to draw a landscape sketch. Thanks.